r/AskReddit by Reddify. Parents of Reddit. What was the best lie that your child has told you? That you knew was a lie, but wanted to see how big of a hole they would put themselves in. We were toilet training, and my 3-year-old boy had accidentally wet the bed. He was clearly upset about it, so I decided to give him an out. Me, oh no. Did I do wee in the bed? He jumped at the chance to blame me. Kid, yeah. It was you. You did wee in my pants. / Reminds me of a Danish nursery rhyme that goes like. John's trousers caught fire. Jack gave out a loud screech. 'Cause Jack was wearing John's trousers. Well. Okay. I guess. Maybe something else got lost in translation? My 4-year-old told me, "Daddy, let me explain it to you. I have cheetah in my DNA." When I asked why she was purring, she ran with the lie for weeks until we told her cheetahs can't eat ice cream or chocolate. She confessed to lying and how she would never lie again because it's too stressful. Till there are people who identify as cheetah. It's too stressful. She was probably lying awake a night wondering how the hell she'd keep this con up back. When my daughter was about 5, I left a cake on the counter in a box. She woke up early and ate like half of it with her hands. When I confronted her about it, she blamed it on Jesus. I had to explain to her that it was against his character. She's 12 now. I still tease her about it. Jesus fed a whole village off of a loaf of bread and turned water into wine. Why in the world would he eat our cake? She fought for that lie too. Another one was when she had an accident and blamed it on the cat. Adult in charge child name, did you have an accident? Child, no. Ek, child, a piece of poop fell out of your pants leg. C, no it didn't. Ek, it's right there. C, Aurea, the cat, did it. Ek, so Aurea climbed in your pants and pooped in them? C, yeah. Ek, I don't think so. Let's take a bath. I'm a nanny and this kid told me his favorite food was corn dog milkshakes. I needed to make him lunch and that's what he wanted. When I asked what that was, he gave me the most patronizing look and said it's where you take a frozen corn dog and mix it in the blender with milk. It sounded disgusting and I was skeptical if he'd eat it and asked, and again he rolled his eyes and said no, you drink it. I couldn't think of any nutritional reasons not, so I said duck it and made the corn dog milkshake. In the middle of it, I even considered trying it. He said it was his favorite food and his mom made it all the time. The consistency was like a smoothie. The color like Pepto-Bismol, and I can't describe the smell. I noped out and crossed my arms to watch if he'd actually do it. He chugged it like a champ and I've never been more proud or disgusted. When I asked his mother about it, she was absolutely horrified and denied ever having made it. Edit, I forgot to mention he said his mom made it for him all the time. She wasn't the best cook and a little lazy, so I believed him. That was the lie. Apparently I did mention in the original post that he said his mom would make it. So some of you are just lazy readers. Edit number 2, I forgot to mention one of my favorite parts. I asked him how you make it. This is how I know he wasn't confused. And he looked at me like I was ducking retarded and very carefully and slowly told me, you take the corn dog out of the freezer. You take it off of the stick. And you put it in the blender with milk. At that point, I decided he had thought this through enough that he must be serious, so I went for it. I think you're awesome for actually making him that corn dog milkshake. That is hilarious. I bet none of you ever forget it. Give me one good reason why not, except that it's unorthodox. Because I couldn't. Not a parent, but a babysitter. I used to look after 4 siblings. Once the little girl, age 6, we'll call her Debbie, came up to me one day with a balloon and asked me if I could blow it up so she could play with it. I said sure, but you need to get me 3 more so your brothers can have 1 each too. As I knew they'd want one as soon as they saw hers. However, Debbie didn't want her brothers to have balloons. She wanted the fun all to herself. The rest of the conversation went like this. Debbie, I can't get 3 more. There only is 1 balloon. Me, knows the packet of balloons is in the drawer, are you sure? I thought we had a packet of balloons. Debbie, no. This isn't from a packet. I made it. Me, you made it? Debbie, yes. I made this balloon. Me, that's amazing. Why don't you make some more for the boys? Debbie, I can't. Me, why not? Debbie, I don't have the ingredients. Me, sure. We can go out to the shop and get the ingredients. What are they? Debbie, it's a secret. This conversation went on in this fashion for a good 5 minutes until she conceded defeat by shouting ha. You believe me? The classic ha. Gotcha, I was just kidding and totally not lying. It was just a prank. Bro. My son was in the first grade when the Pokemon fad started up at school. It didn't take long for Evil Resin class to begin. Or the underground card trading ring. My son began encountering more and more trouble from these dealings, fighting, stealing, etc. So we eventually had a meeting with his teacher and some school counselors. The meeting essentially revolved around us making sure the cards stayed at home and the teachers keeping a close eye on the Pock economy. Starting the next day, my wife began asking my son if he had cards and then checking his book bag and pockets. After checking his person for all contraband, she ships him off to school. Literally 30 minutes later a phone call comes home. He was caught trading cards at school. When confronted by the teacher on where he got the cards, he told her he hid them in his underwear before he left the house. From that day forward my wife had to administer prison warden type searches. Update, I'll just copy and paste my wife's reply when I sent the screenshot of this to her. Haha, you forgot to mention that he was bragging to other children about how the card stuck to his balls. Edit, far too many requests for Pock economy to replace Pokemon economy in the original post. Now bend over and cough. Son. Who hides cards up their butt? Just roll it up and stick it in your pee hole. Edit, my highest rated post, thanks. I should comment more often. Edit again, I spelled bad. I was making dinner and my 3-year-old let out a blood-curdling scream. So I ran to the den where him and my 5-year-old daughter were playing. He's holding his leg, so I pry his little fingers off, and there's a fresh set of teeth marks. I look at my daughter and ask what happened. Straight face. Calm voice, I was just laying here, and Bubba's leg fell into my open mouth. Then he started crying. I act shocked and tell her she must have rock teeth and we better get her to the dentist right after dinner. Her eyes got huge. Then I got the boy an ice pack and went on making dinner. We finish eating, I tell her to grab her shoes and I get my keys. It was about 2 seconds after I started the car when I got the truth. He wouldn't give her the remote and started to run away. She tripped him and bit his leg. She got grounded from TV for a weekend. I had a habit of biting my sister when we got into fights as kids. When I was about 8, the dentist gave me a full mold of my teeth since it was somehow defective and they needed to make a new one. So why not? I got into a small argument, not physical this time, with my sister a bit later. She took the mold and proceeded to bite her arm with it. She ran to our mom, crying and saying I bit her. Mom got mad at me since she'd told me time and time again not to bite my sister. I started sobbing because I actually didn't bite her this time. But mom wouldn't believe me. After about 15 minutes of my denying it, my sister took out the teeth mold and said, "See, it's a perfect match," and started cracking up. My mom just sighed. I'd like to plan a heist with your sister. She seems to have good ideas. When my son was about 4, I spent a few weeks with him and his sister at a summer camp. We lived on the first floor of a dorm while we were there. In his little mind, everyone else who lived there had better food than I was serving. To be fair, it's hard to cook a good dinner for 3 in a dorm room. Anyway, I fed the kids and was preparing to leave for the evening. And lo and behold, my son was gone. I went up and down all the halls, asking everyone where he was. I finally found him on the 4th floor, happily eating dinner with another family. They said he told them I had already left and did not give him dinner before I left. He had evidently gone from room to room, checking out what everyone was having, and then lying his way into the best of the lot. I did the exact same thing, but on a cruise ship, because my parents would not order room service. You're very excited about that anecdote. 3-year-old was sat on front of the TV watching cartoons. I went up to put some laundry away, and when I came back down he had no pants or trousers on. There was a little puddle of urine on the floor behind him, and his underwear and trousers were on the floor on front of the washing machine. I asked him who had urinated on the floor. He replied it was Daddy. When I said that Daddy was at work, he told me that Daddy had came home, weed on the floor, and then left again. In the few minutes that I've been upstairs, shaking his head and rolling his eyes in disapproval. Yes. You need to have words with your husband. Really inappropriate behavior to model for a child. When I was around 7 I lost a tooth and put it under my pillow that night, awaiting my money from the tooth fairy. The next morning I wake up, and to my horror there was no money and the tooth was still there. I knew I had been a particularly bad kid lately and figured that had something to do with it. I had to think fast, because my parents would be pissed and want to know the reason why the tooth fairy didn't visit me. So I rush to my piggy bank and pull out a wad of change and $1 and proceed into the living room. I walk and drop it all on the table in front of them with a smug look on my face and say, "Woo, that tooth fairy sure was good to me last night." The room fell silent. My parents have a worried look on their faces. They ask where the money came from. I say tooth fairy. They ask again. I start sweating. How could they know? What kind of crazy magic is at work here between all of these higher beings and my parents? I admit that it came from my piggy bank and I didn't want them to be disappointed in me when they found out that I was too bad a kid for a visit from the fairy. My dad says the tooth fairy isn't real, son. And while we are on the subject, neither is Santa Claus. My world is shattered. Edited, Santa Claus to Santa Claus. I love this story. Your parents must have been horrified to think some stranger broke into the house just to steal your tooth and give you money. Yeah, conceptually speaking, the tooth fairy is goddamn terrifying. Just walking past my 4-year-old son, who was quietly playing by himself. He looks up at me and smiles. Nothing's wrong. When I was about 12, I was over at my aunt and uncle's place for the weekend. My cousin was about 4. My aunt and uncle told her, "You can pour yourself some water from the cooler, but you have to use a plastic cup. Glasses are only for grown-ups." Half an hour later, my aunt, uncle and I are in the living room watching a movie, and we hear what could only be a glass breaking. Tiny voice from the kitchen, "Nothing broke. So don't come in here." Uncle, "Is everything okay in there?" Cousin, "Everything is fine. Where is the dustpan? Lol." My 5yo always says when she thinks she's being naughty, "Everything's okay. UHH, don't look." Usually she's just changing her clothes for the 6th time that day, which drives us nuts due to excess laundry, but isn't exactly naughty. Did you cut your hair? No. Okay then. Missing a triangle in her bangs. Once I had a kindergartner tell me a story about one time a very long time ago, when she was very little, in which she had used a pair of scissors to trim her eyelashes. As she was telling me this, I noticed that her eyelashes on one side were extremely short. When I pointed that out to her, she denied it vehemently. When you can only remember the last year, a week, or a super long time. When my oldest son was in 8th grade, he decided to make money by doing his classmates' homework. I knew something was up because he spent an extraordinary time doing homework, while his twin sister, who shared some classes with him, didn't. He would be up until nearly midnight doing homework. It seemed weird, and when I would question him about it, he would just make up odd excuses. I found money in his pockets while doing laundry, and since he didn't have a job, that didn't sit right. I asked my younger son if he knew why his brother had money in his pocket, and he told me what was up. He was apparently paying his brother and sister as well to keep quiet. After I found out, I told my son that I was going to call his teachers and see why he was being given so much homework. My son immediately told me not to do that. So I told him that I wouldn't call. Instead, the following day, when I drove the kids to school, I got out of the car with my son and told him that I wanted to talk to the principal in person. I told my son that his teachers were being absolutely ridiculous and I had to go above them if I wanted anything to be done. My son confessed before we got to the school. Before anyone says it, I'm not the type of parent to go to the principal or teachers over homework. I wasn't actually going to it. Just wanted to frighten my son. Your kid was a regular kingpin. Paying off people and everything. A kingpin would have paid off the parent. I'll give the reverse of the question. I was the kid. For my 8th or 9th birthday my dad gave me a hunting knife. We were always camping, or in the woods. And I just had a thing for knives. This knife was the real deal. Not a cheapo knockoff. American crafted. Limited edition Kershaw hunting knife. It had weight to it. It was the perfect size for my hand. Balanced and sharp. He gave it to me on the condition that I would be responsible with it. And take care of it. It was my first grown-up gift and I adored it. One day, Dad comes home. Takes the trash out and something near the garbage catches his eye. He rustled through the grass. And there in the dirt was my hunting knife. Handle coming apart. Covered in dirt and misshapen. He comes to me. And I could tell something was wrong. Then he starts. The way any good dad would start when teaching your child a lesson. With a trap. Dad, hey son. Why'd I say we go camping this weekend? Me. A little worried, because I can tell something is up. Okay, I always love to go camping. Dad, you like to go camping, eh? Well, you know camping requires taking care of your camping gear. Right? Me yes. Dad, so you know that? What about that knife I bought you? Did you take care of it, like I asked you? Me, yes. Dad, are you sure? I have a feeling that you didn't take care of it at all. I have a feeling you probably just left it out in the rain to rust and rot. Son. I thought I could trust you. I thought you would take care of the things I asked you to take care of. You say you take care of this knife. Okay. Show me how well you take care of it. Where is it? I'm on the verge of tears at this point. And I walk back to my room, and he follows me. I open up my keepsake chest. Shift a few things around. Find a small cloth neatly wrapped up. Pull it out, and unsheathed my pristine Kershaw knife that I so adored, and give it to my dad. He looks at me for what felt like forever. And eventually says, okay then. Let's go camping. Years later, after I was an adult, he was telling this story and told me he found out later it was the neighbor's knife that just happened to look very similar to mine. We had a good laugh, but I can tell you I almost hid my pants that day. Wow. What a backfire. I'll bet he felt like a heel for a few seconds. And that's why. Michael. You don't teach lessons to your son. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.